Voyager 1 was not supposed to find anything moving out there. After nearly half a century drifting away from Earth, it was expected to do only one thing: keep fading. A weaker signal, a colder spacecraft, a slower heartbeat from the edge of the unknown. But then something changed. In one of its most unusual transmissions, scientists noticed a pattern that did not behave like ordinary noise. It was faint. It was distant. And at first, it seemed almost meaningless until they realized the signal may not have been pointing to a problem inside Voyager. It may have been pointing to something beyond it. Something moving in the darkness outside our solar system. For most people, Voyager 1 is a machine from another lifetime. It was launched in 1977, in a world without smartphones, without the internet as we know it, and before many of today's scientists were even born. It was built during an age when space exploration still felt almost mythological, when every mission carried not just instruments and cameras, but the hopes of an entire civilization. Voyager 1 flew past Jupiter. It crossed Saturn. It took one of the most famous images in human history, the pale blue dot, showing Earth as a tiny speck suspended in a beam of sunlight. And then it kept going. Year after year, decade after decade, Voyager moved farther from home than any human-made object ever had before. It crossed the outer planets. It entered the distant frontier of the heliosphere. And eventually, it became the first spacecraft to reach interstellar space, a place where the sun is no longer the center of the story. A place where the solar wind weakens, where cosmic radiation grows stronger, where Earth is no longer a planet in the sky, but a memory traveling at the speed of radio waves. That is what makes this signal so disturbing. Because when Voyager speaks, it is not speaking from orbit. It is not sending data from Mars, the Moon, or even the outer planets. It is sending whispers from a region so far away that every message takes hours to reach us. By the time a signal from Voyager arrives on Earth, it has crossed billions of miles of darkness. And that means even the smallest anomaly matters. A strange fluctuation could be a technical failure. A shift in the data could be a dying instrument. A repeated pattern could be interference, radiation, or a simple artifact from an aging machine. But sometimes the explanation is not that simple. Because Voyager 1 is no longer just exploring space. It is crossing the boundary between what we know and what we only think we understand. And out there, beyond the planets, beyond Pluto, beyond the protective bubble of the sun, the environment becomes something far stranger than most people imagine. It is not empty. It is filled with particles, magnetic fields, ancient radiation, invisible pressure from the space between stars, and perhaps objects we have never seen before. The unsettling question is this: if something were moving out there beyond the edge of our solar system, would we even recognize it? Would it appear as an image, a shadow, a signal, or a distortion in the data? Or would it first arrive as something much quieter, a strange change inside a transmission from an old spacecraft that should have been fading into silence? For decades, Voyager 1 has been our messenger into the dark. But now, the real question is no longer what Voyager is sending back to Earth. The real question is what might be out there with it. To understand why this signal matters, we have to remember what Voyager 1 really is. It is not a modern spacecraft. It does not have a powerful computer by today's standards. It does not take high-definition images anymore. It does not move through space like the sleek ships we imagine in science fiction. Voyager 1 is a machine from the 1970s. A machine wrapped in gold foil, powered by fading plutonium, carrying instruments designed by people who knew they would probably never live to see the end of its journey. And yet, it is still out there, still alive, still sending data back to Earth from a place no human-built object had ever reached before. That alone is almost impossible to believe. Every signal from Voyager has to travel across a distance so vast that numbers begin to lose meaning. The transmission does not arrive instantly. It crawls across space at the speed of light, passing through the emptiness between planets, crossing the invisible border of the sun's influence, and finally reaching the giant antennas of NASA's Deep Space Network. By the time it arrives, the signal is incredibly weak. Not weak like a bad radio station, weak like a whisper from another age. A whisper so faint that if you placed it beside the electronic noise of Earth, it would almost dissipate. That is why scientists do not simply hear Voyager. They have to search for it. They have to separate its voice from a sea of background noise. They have to remove interference, correct errors, compare patterns, and ask the same question again and again. Is this really Voyager, or is this just the universe pretending to speak? For decades, the answer was usually simple. The spacecraft sent back information about its systems, its temperature, its power levels, its orientation, its instruments, and its slow decline. It was an old explorer reporting on its own survival. But as Voyager moved farther away, the environment around it changed. Inside the solar system, space is shaped by the sun. The solar wind flows outward. Magnetic fields stretch across billions of miles. Particles from the sun create a vast protective bubble around the planets. But Voyager 1 eventually crossed into a region beyond that bubble.